The massive crystal chamber buzzed with voices from 800 different species. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim stood at the center of it all, watching the chaos around him. His dark suit looked simple next to the colorful robes and strange bodies of the other delegates. Some had wings, others had tentacles, and a few glowed with their own light. Dae-ho had been Earth's voice in this place for 3 years. He knew every corner of the Galactic Council chambers. The walls were made of living crystal that changed color with the mood of the room. Right now, they showed deep purple, the color of confusion and worry. The council speaker, Velthar, raised one of her 4 arms. She was a Zephyrian, looking like a giant mantis with golden skin. Her voice clicked and buzzed through the translation devices everyone wore. The floor recognizes Ambassador Kim of the Human Federation, Velthar announced. The chamber fell, quiet. 800 pairs of eyes, some with more than 2 eyes, turned to look at the human. Dae-ho walked forward. His steps echoed in the sudden silence. Behind him, Captain Subin Lee and 2 other human security officers followed. Subin kept her hand near her weapon, not because of any threat, but because this moment would change everything. Honored delegates, Dae-ho began. His voice was calm and clear. I stand before you today to deliver a message from the United Earth Federation and all human colonies. He paused and looked around the chamber. In the front row sat the most powerful species, the Alterian, Confederacy with their blue skin and proud faces, the Keth Syndicate representatives with their metal parts replacing much of their original bodies, the energy beings called Velmora, who looked like floating lights in glass containers. After careful consideration, Dae-ho continued, humanity has decided to withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The silence lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber exploded. Delegates jumped to their feet. Some roared, others clicked, and a few made sounds that no human throat could produce. The crystal walls flashed red with anger and yellow, with shock. Velthar slammed her staff against the floor. The sound cut through the noise like a blade. Order! Order in the chamber! Slowly the delegates sat down, but their anger filled the air like smoke. Ambassador Kim, Velthar said. Her voice was tight with control. Please explain this second announcement. Dae-ho nodded. The human species has decided to pursue an independent path. We thank the Council for 50 years of membership, but we have fundamental differences with current policies. From the hegemony section, a massive figure stood up. Morden was built like a walking tank with gray skin covered in scars. His people were known for their love of war and their hatred of weakness. You cannot be serious, Morden growled. Humans are barely out of their caves. You need us more than we need you. A few delegates laughed. The sound was not kind. Dae-ho smiled slightly. We understand your position, Representative Mordoon. However, our decision is final. An Alterian delegate with silver hair stood up. Her name was Zara Lin, and she led their science division. What about our joint research projects, the medical advances we are sharing? All human participation will end within 30 days, Dae-ho replied. Our scientists will return to human space. This is madness, called out a delegate from the Spiral Arm Alliance. You are throwing away centuries of potential progress. Subin watched the crowd carefully. She had been in many dangerous situations, but this felt different. The anger in the room was not hot and quick. It was cold and deep, the kind that led to long grudges. Velthar tried to restore order again. Ambassador Kim, surely this is a negotiating position? What do you want? Better trade terms? More seats on the Science Council? Nothing, Dae-ho said simply. We want nothing from the Council. We are leaving. The crystal walls flashed through a dozen colors as emotions swept the chamber. Even the energy beings seemed agitated, their lights flickering rapidly. A delegate from the Hive Collective spoke up. Her insect-like face showed no emotion, but her words carried weight. If humans leave, who will maintain the navigation systems in the Outer Rim territories? That is no longer our concern, Dae-ho answered. Morden laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Good, let them go. They were always the weakest species here anyway. In 10 years they will come crawling back, begging to be let in again. Several delegates nodded. The humans had always been seen as the junior members of the council. They had no great military like the hegemony. They did not control trade routes like the Keth Syndicate. They could not manipulate energy like the Velmora. Perhaps, Deho said quietly. We will see. Velthar stood up to her full height, nearly 3 meters tall. Very well. If this is truly your final decision, then the council accepts your withdrawal. All human property and personnel must be removed from council space within 60 days. 30 days. Deho corrected. We will be gone in 30 days. The chamber erupted again, but this time with laughter from many delegates. 30 days seemed impossible. Humans had colonies, research stations, and trading posts throughout council space. They had thousands of people living on dozens of worlds. 30 days to pack up 50 years? Zaralin asked with disbelief. Impossible. We will manage, Deho said. Subin noticed something that others missed. Her commander was not worried or angry. He seemed relaxed, as if everything was going according to plan. The formal vote took only minutes. 738 species voted to accept the human withdrawal. 8 species voted against it, mostly small colonies that had good trade relationships with Earth. 1 species abstained. As the votes were counted, delegates began talking among themselves. Most seemed relieved. The humans had always asked difficult questions in council meetings. They pushed for changes that made other species uncomfortable. With them gone, things could go back to the way they had always been. The vote is final, Velthar announced. The Human Federation is no longer a member of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Kim, you have 30 days. Deho bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that surprised some delegates. Thank you, Speaker Velthar. It has been an honor to serve here. As the humans walked out of the chamber, conversations started up behind them. Subin could hear fragments through her translator. About time. Never fit in anyway. Too primitive for real galactic politics. Good riddance. In the hallway outside, Subin finally spoke. Sir, are you sure about this? Deho smiled for the first time all day. Captain Lee, in 30 days, we will be completely free of this place. And in 5 years, they will understand what they just lost. What do you mean? They think we are weak because we do not boast about our strength. They think we are unimportant because we do not demand attention. They are about to learn how wrong they are. Subin nodded. She had served under Deho for 2 years and had learned to trust his judgment. If he said this was the right choice, then it was. Behind them, the crystal chamber continued to flash with colors of celebration and relief. The Galactic Council was finally free of the troublesome humans. They had no idea that their real troubles were just beginning. The news reached Earth before Ambassador Deho Kim even returned from Nexus Prime Station. President Jiwoo Park sat in her office in New Seoul, watching the emergency broadcast that was going out to every human colony in the galaxy. My fellow humans, she said, looking directly into the camera. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history. We are no longer members of the Galactic Council. This was not a decision made in anger or haste. This was planned. Across human space, people stopped what they were doing to listen. On mining stations in the asteroid belts, workers put down their tools. In research facilities on distant moons, scientists paused their experiments. On Earth itself, billions gathered around screens in homes, offices, and public spaces. Some of you may be confused, President Park continued. Some may be afraid. But I want you to understand something important. We are not retreating, we are moving forward. In his office on Luna Station, Strategic Coordinator Hyunwoo Choi watched the broadcast with satisfaction. He had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Every detail had been planned, every problem anticipated. His assistant, a young woman named Bo Ra-han, knocked on his door. Sir, the first evacuation ships are ready to launch. Good, Hyunwoo said. Begin with the research stations, then the trade posts. The colonies come last. What about the people who do not want to leave? Hyunwoo turned to look out at the Yao stars. Everyone leaves, no exceptions. Bora nodded and left to send the orders. She had been working with Hyunwoo long enough to know that his plans were always thorough. If he said everyone had to leave, then everyone would leave. On the research station orbiting Kepler 442b, Dr. Mi-young Seo was packing her life's work into storage containers. She had spent 8 years studying the plant life on this world. Her research was helping to develop new medicines that could save millions of lives. "This is crazy," her assistant Jong-soo muttered as he sealed another container. "Why are we throwing away everything we built here?" Mi-young sealed a container full of plant samples. Each one was worth more than most people earned in a year. "We are not throwing it away. We are taking it with us." But the council species helped fund this research. "They have a right to some of it," Mi-young smiled coldly. "They had a right to it when we were partners. Now we are not partners anymore." Jong-soo realized what she meant. All the research, all the discoveries, all the innovations that humans had, developed while in the council. They were taking it all away. The evacuation was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships appeared at every colony, every station, every outpost. They worked day and night loading people and equipment with military precision. On New Harmony, a farming colony in council space, colonist Seung-ho Yoon watched ships landing in the fields where his family had grown food for 30 years. He was not happy about leaving. "This land is ours," he told the evacuation coordinator, Captain In-ho Kim. "My children were born here." "I understand," Captain Kim replied. "But the orders are clear. Everyone leaves. What if we refuse?" Captain Kim's expression did not change. "Then you will be considered traitors to humanity. Your citizenship will be revoked, and you will be left here with no protection from Earth." The threat was clear. Without human citizenship, they would have no rights in council space. They would be refugees at best. Within hours, Seung-ho and his family were on a transport ship heading back to human space. The other species in the council watched this exodus with growing amazement. The speed and organization shocked them. They had expected chaos, delays, and problems. Instead, they saw a perfectly coordinated withdrawal that seemed almost military in its precision. On the trading station at Wolf 359, Keth Syndicate Overseer Mektar watched human workers dismantling equipment they had installed just months before. "You cannot take that," he told human engineer Taimin Jo. "That fusion reactor was built with council resources." Taimin looked at him calmly. "This reactor was designed by human engineers, built with human labor, and maintained by human technicians. The raw materials came from the council, true, but the knowledge that made it work came from us. The council will not allow this theft." Taimin continued working as he talked. "The council voted to remove us from their space. This equipment was built by humans for humans. We are taking it home." As he spoke, his team disconnected the last power coupling. The reactor shut down, taking the station's main power with it. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in a red glow. "You cannot leave us without power," Mektar protested. "We left you with the same power systems you had before we came," Taimin replied. "If they are not enough anymore, that is not our problem." Similar scenes played out across council space. Human-designed communication relays went dark when their human operators left. Trade routes became less efficient when human navigators departed. Mining operations slowed when human-optimized systems were removed. Most council species barely noticed, at first. They were used to their own systems and assumed they could easily replace whatever the humans had been doing. On Nexus Prime Station itself, the evacuation was particularly thorough. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim supervised the removal of every piece of human technology, every file, every personal item. Council Security Chief Vexilan, a reptilian being with yellow scales, watched the process with suspicion. "You are being very thorough. Do not wish to leave any confusion about what belongs to whom," Dae-ho replied. "What about the cultural exchange programs, the student exchanges?" "All terminated. Every human student, researcher, and cultural liaison will return to human space. Vexillans. Scales shifted to a darker shade, indicating concern. Some of these programs have been running for decades. Yes, Daeho said simply. Now they are over. In her laboratory, Dr. Yoonji Yoon was deleting files from the Council's main scientific database. These were research projects that humans had led or contributed to. Without the human data, many of these projects would have to start over from the beginning. Is this really necessary? Asked her Alterian colleague, Dr. Zelnoth. This research could help billions of people across the galaxy. It could, Yoonji agreed, but the Council decided they do not need human help anymore, so they can do the research themselves. But this will set back medical research by decades. Yoonji paused in her work. Dr. Zelnoth, you have been my colleague for 6 years. In that time, how many times did anyone in the Council ask for my opinion on policy? How many times were human recommendations taken seriously? Zelnoth was quiet for a moment. That is different. This is science, not politics. No, Yoonji said, returning to her work. This is all politics, and the Council just voted to do their politics without us. As the days passed, the withdrawal continued. Human colonies that had existed for generations packed up and left. Research stations that had made breakthrough discoveries were abandoned. Trading posts that had facilitated commerce for decades closed their doors. On Earth, President Park held daily briefings to update the public on the progress. Evacuation is proceeding on schedule, she announced on day 15. All personnel will be out of Council space within the deadline. Madam President, asked reporter Yunwoo Chang, what about the economic impact? We are losing trade relationships worth trillions of credits. We are not losing anything, Park replied. We are choosing to trade our labor and resources for our freedom. I believe that is a good trade. But where will all these people go? We are bringing back millions of colonists, Park smiled. Mr. Chang, human space is much larger than most people realize. We have been preparing new colonies, new opportunities, new frontiers. Our people will not lack for places to go or work to do. As the evacuation entered its final week, some Council species began to express regret. The Spiral Arm Alliance sent a message asking if humans would reconsider. The Hive Collective offered better trade terms. Even the proud Alterians suggested that perhaps the withdrawal was too hasty. All requests were politely declined. On day 28, the last human transport left Council space. Ambassador Daeho Kim was on that ship, along with the final diplomatic staff. As they passed the border marker between Council space and the neutral zone, he looked back one last time. Captain Subin Lee joined him at the observation deck. Any regrets, sir? Daeho shook his head. None at all, Captain. Phase 1 is complete. Now we begin Phase 2. Which is? We show the galaxy what humans can really do when we are not trying to fit in with everyone else. Behind them, Council, space continued its daily routine. Most species assumed that life would go on exactly as it had before. They had no way of knowing that the humans had been quietly holding their civilization together in ways they had never noticed. They were about to learn just how much they had depended on the species they had just let go. 18 months after the human withdrawal, the first cracks began to show. On the Velmora home system, Energy Coordinator Luxandon floated in his crystalline chamber, studying reports that made his light flicker with concern. The power distribution network that supplied energy to their 12 colony worlds was operating at only 70% efficiency. The degradation continues, his assistant, Fluxamina, reported. We have lost another 3% this month. Luxandon pulsed with frustration. Have our technicians identified the cause? They say the optimization protocols are failing. The automatic adjustments that kept our energy flow stable are no longer working correctly. Then fix them. Fluxamina dimmed slightly, the Velmora equivalent of embarrassment. They do not understand how the protocols work. The original programming was written in human mathematical concepts that our people cannot interpret. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. For 200 years, the Velmora had considered themselves the masters of energy manipulation in the galaxy. They had allowed humans to work on their systems only as a gesture of goodwill to a junior species. Now they were discovering that those humans had made improvements that no Velmora could replicate. On the other side of Council space, the Keth Syndicate was facing similar problems. Mining Coordinator Technol stood in the control center of Asteroid, mining platform Delta 7, watching production numbers that fell lower each week. "Explain to me again why our output has dropped 40%, he said to his chief engineer, Mexital. Mexital, a cyborg whose organic parts had been largely replaced with mechanical ones, consulted his datapad. "The mining algorithms that guided our automated systems have become unreliable. They are not adapting to changes in asteroid composition or structural integrity. So reprogram them. We cannot." The adaptive learning protocols were designed by human engineers. Our people understand the basic operation, but not the underlying logic that makes the system learn and improve. Technol's mechanical arm whirred as his frustration made his servos tighten. "Are you telling me that we, the Keth Syndicate, masters of technology and automation, cannot operate our own mining platforms without help from primitive humans? I am telling you that the humans were not as primitive as we believed." Similar conversations were happening across Council space. The Alterian Confederacy discovered that their industrial output was falling because quality control systems designed by human engineers were malfunctioning. The Hive Collective found that their agricultural yields were dropping because crop optimization programs were no longer working correctly. But nowhere were the problems more obvious than in the Council's communication network. On Nexus Prime Station, Communication Director Zixamara of the Quantum Collective stared at a display showing network status across Council space. Red warning lights blinked like angry stars across the galactic map. "How many systems are currently offline?" she asked her team. 47 major relay stations and over 300 minor ones," reported technician Kari-san. "The cascade. Failures are spreading faster than we can repair them." Zixmara's crystalline body shifted through several colors indicating deep thought. "What is causing these failures?" "The adaptive routing protocols are breaking down. When one relay station fails, the network is supposed to automatically reroute communications through alternate pathways. But the routing logic is not working correctly. Who designed the routing protocols?" Kari-san's colors shifted to the pale blue of reluctance. The original framework was designed by the Quantum Collective, but the adaptive elements that made it truly efficient were added by human engineer Taemin Jo. The name was familiar to Zixmara. She remembered the quiet human who had worked in the communication center for several years. He had rarely spoken in meetings, but whenever the network had problems, he had always known how to fix them. Where is Engineer Joe now? He left with the other humans 18 months ago. All of his work files were deleted from our systems before he departed. Zixmara realized the full scope of their problem. The humans had not just taken their people when they left. They had taken their knowledge, their innovations, and their solutions to problems that Council species had not even known existed. On Ko, Earth, Engineer Taemin Jo was working in a laboratory on Luna Station, designing improvements to humanity's own communication networks. He occasionally received reports about the failures happening in Council space, but they no longer concerned him. "The Council networks are collapsing faster than we predicted," his colleague, Dr. Hyjin Park, mentioned during their daily briefing. "That is unfortunate," Taemin replied without looking up from his work, "but no longer our responsibility. Some of my former colleagues have tried to contact me for technical assistance. I hope you declined." "Of course, but I admit I feel some sympathy for them. Many of these failures will affect billions of innocent people." Taemin finally looked up. "Dr. Park, when we were members of the Council, how many times did they ask for our input on major decisions? How often did they treat our suggestions seriously?" "Rarely," she admitted. "They wanted the benefits of human innovation without respecting human intelligence. Now they have neither. The problems were not limited to technology. Trade routes that had been mapped by human navigators were becoming increasingly dangerous to use. The automated navigation systems could follow the basic routes, but they could not adapt to the small changes that made space travel safe. Captain Morthek of the hegemony transport vessel Iron Fist learned this the hard way when his ship nearly flew into a gravitational anomaly that had not been there on his last trip through the system. Why did the navigation system not detect this hazard? He demanded of his navigation officer. The hazard is not in our stellar cartography database, Officer Kexlar replied. It appears to be a new formation. Then update the database. Sir, we do not have the authority to modify navigation routes. All route changes must be approved by the Navigation Authority on Nexus Prime. Morthek's scarred face twisted with anger. And how long does that approval take? Typically 6 to 8 months, sir. The captain realized that when humans had been part of the council, navigation updates had happened much faster. Human navigators had possessed the authority to make immediate route corrections when they discovered hazards or found more efficient pathways. Now, with the humans gone and their flexible procedures replaced by rigid bureaucracy, the trade routes were becoming less safe and less efficient every month. The economic impact was starting to show. Trade between council species slowed as transportation became more expensive and less reliable. Production decreased as automated systems failed and could not be repaired. Communication problems made it difficult for businesses to coordinate across multiple star systems. On the Alterian homeworld, Economic Minister Velandra reviewed reports that painted a grim picture. Trade volume is down 18% from last year, she announced to her staff. Industrial production has fallen 12%. Unemployment is rising on 17 of our colony worlds. What is causing this recession? Asked her deputy, Zor Malik. Multiple factors. Transportation costs are up due to navigation inefficiencies. Communication delays are disrupting supply chains. Quality control problems are forcing us to reject more products. These all seem to be technical problems. Can we not hire experts to fix them? Velandra's expression was bitter. We could have hired the experts who understood these systems. Unfortunately, we voted to throw them out of council space 18 months ago. The realization was spreading throughout the council. The humans had not been the junior partners they had appeared to be. They had been quietly essential to the operation of galactic civilization. But pride is a powerful force. Rather than admit their mistake, most council species tried to find other solutions. The Velmora attempted to hire energy specialists from the Quantum Collective. The Keth Syndicate tried to recreate human mining algorithms through trial and error. The Alterians launched a massive research project to develop new quality control systems. All of these efforts had limited success. The other species were competent, but they had not developed the same approaches to problem solving that humans used. Where humans saw systems that needed to adapt and learn, other species saw systems that should follow fixed rules. Where humans built flexibility into their designs, other species preferred predictability. 6 months later, the problems had grown worse. The communication network was now operating at 60% capacity. Power distribution efficiency had fallen to below 50% in some sectors. Mining output continued to decline, and navigation hazards were accumulating faster than they could be cataloged. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, Speaker Velthar called an emergency session. Representatives from all the major species gathered to discuss what they were calling the efficiency crisis. We must face the reality of our situation, Velthar announced. The departure of the humans has created unexpected challenges across multiple sectors of our civilization. Morden of the hegemony stood up. Are you suggesting that we made an error in allowing them to leave? I am suggesting that we underestimated their contributions to our society. 3 years after the withdrawal, the Galactic Council was falling apart. The Keth Syndicate Mining Collective called an emergency meeting on their home world of Mektandor. Supreme Coordinator Vexthan stood before holographic displays showing the collapse of their industrial empire. Red lights blinked across their territory like warning beacons of failure. Our mining output has dropped by 65%, he announced to the gathered board members. 17 asteroid mining platforms have been abandoned because we cannot Maintain them. Our automated refineries are producing materials below acceptable quality standards. Board member Technara's cybernetic implants whirred with agitation. How did this happen? We are the premier industrial power in the galaxy. We were the premier industrial power, Vexthun corrected. That was when human engineers were optimizing our systems. Engineer Dae Ho Min designed the adaptive learning protocols that kept our mining equipment operating at peak efficiency. Engineer Yuna Seo created the quality control algorithms that maintained our reputation for excellence. Surely our own engineers can replicate their work? Vexthun gestured to another display showing failed projects. We have spent 2 billion credits trying to recreate human innovations. Every attempt has resulted in systems that work poorly or break down completely. We are forced to conclude that human engineering approaches are fundamentally different from our own. The uncomfortable silence that followed was broken by an emergency communication from Nexus Prime Station. The holographic image of Speaker, Felthar, appeared in the center of the room. Supreme Coordinator Vexthun, she said, I am contacting all council leaders with urgent news. We have detected human activity in the outer spiral arm. Vexthun leaned forward. What kind of activity? Long-range sensors have identified what appears to be a major human colonization effort. Dozens of worlds that were previously uninhabited now show signs of human settlement. More concerning, we have detected communication signals suggesting contact with non-council species. The implications were staggering. While the council struggled with failing systems and declining productivity, the humans had been expanding into unexplored regions of the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the Velmora Energy Grid Control Center, the situation had reached a crisis point. Coordinator Luke Sandin flickered weakly as he studied reports of cascading power failures across their colonial empire. 3 more worlds have lost main power grid stability this week, reported his assistant Fluximina. We are now operating 17 colonies on emergency power only. Have we made any progress in understanding the human optimization protocols? None. Our best energy engineers have studied the code for 2 years. They can see what it does, but not how it makes its decisions. The logic appears to be based on probability calculations that change based on variables we cannot identify. Luxandon pulsed with desperate energy. Then we must contact the humans directly. This crisis threatens the survival of our species. All attempts at communication have failed. The humans are no longer monitoring any council frequencies. The Velmora faced a terrible irony. As beings of pure energy, they had always believed they understood power better than any other species. Now they were discovering that solid-bodied humans had understood energy systems in ways that energy beings could not comprehend. On the agricultural world of Harvest Prime, the Hive Collective faced their own crisis. Queen Director Ziktara surveyed vast fields where crops grew in chaotic, uneven patterns, instead of the precise arrangements that had fed the galaxy for centuries. Food production is down 40% across all agricultural worlds, reported Drone Coordinator Hikmala. The crop optimization systems that maintained perfect growing conditions have malfunctioned beyond repair. Explain to me again how this happened, Ziktara commanded. The optimization systems were enhanced by human agricultural scientist Dr. Won Ho Kim. He introduced what he called adaptive cultivation algorithms that could adjust growing conditions based on thousands of environmental variables. Without these algorithms, our crops are vulnerable to weather changes, soil variations, and pest adaptations. Ziktara's compound eyes reflected her frustration. One human scientist was managing the food supply for the entire galaxy? Not managing, Your Majesty. Optimizing. The basic systems still function, but at much lower efficiency. We can still grow food, but not enough to maintain current population levels across council space. The food crisis was perhaps the most visible sign of the council's problems. Images of empty markets and rationing lines spread across news networks. For the first time in centuries, hunger was becoming a concern in the heart of galactic civilization. But the most devastating revelation came from an unexpected source. A freight captain named Moktesh was carrying a routine cargo shipment when his navigation system led him into what should have been empty space. Instead, He found a thriving human colony orbiting a star that Council charts listed as uninhabitable. "This is impossible," he muttered to his co-pilot as they watched human ships moving between orbital stations and planetary settlements. Our survey said this system was too unstable for colonization. His co-pilot, a young hegemony warrior named Gexton, studied the scanner readings. "Captain, those human ships are using technologies I do not recognize. Their drives are producing energy signatures that should not be possible." Moktesh made a decision that would change galactic politics forever. He opened a communication channel to the human colony. "Unknown human vessels, this is Captain Moktesh of the merchant ship Wandering Star. I request permission to approach your station." The response came immediately in perfect galactic standard. "Captain Moktesh, this is New Harmony Station. You are welcome to dock at berth 17. Please be aware that this is independent human territory and Council law does not apply here." When Moktesh and his crew docked at the human station, they found a level of technological advancement that shocked them. The station's artificial gravity was smoother than anything in Council space. The atmospheric processing created air so clean it felt refreshing to breathe. The communication systems carried data at speeds that their own equipment could barely detect. Station Commander So Young Han greeted them personally. She was a former Council cultural liaison who had worked on Nexus Prime for several years before the withdrawal. "Commander Han," Moktesh said carefully, "I must ask, how is this possible? This star system was surveyed by the Council only 50 years ago. The report said it was unsuitable for habitation." So Young smiled. "The reports were correct using Council technology and methods, but human techniques for planetary engineering and stellar mechanics are different." "Different how?" "We do not fight against environmental challenges. We adapt to them and work with them. This star's instability actually provides us with abundant energy that we harvest using gravitational resonance collectors." Gexton, who had been studying the technical displays, looked confused. "I do not understand these energy readings. Your power output should be impossible with these stellar conditions." "Your people see instability as a problem to be avoided," So Young explained. "We see it as a resource to be utilized." Before they left the station, Moktesh was given a tour that revealed the scope of human expansion. The colony was not alone. It was part of a network of human settlements stretching across dozens of star systems. Even more remarkably, they had made contact with 3 previously unknown alien species and established trade relationships that bypassed the Council entirely. When Moktesh returned to Council space and reported his discovery, the reaction was immediate and intense. Emergency sessions were called. Intelligence departments launched investigations. Military leaders began drawing up contingency plans. The humans were not struggling in exile. They were thriving. Admiral Kex Noth of the Hegemony. Defense Force studied reconnaissance reports with growing concern. "How many human colonies have been confirmed in the outer spiral?" 47 confirmed, with indications of at least 30 more, reported Intelligence Director Morvex. "They appear to be expanding at an unprecedented rate." "What is their military strength?" "Unknown. Their ships use technologies that our sensors cannot fully analyze. However, we have confirmed contact between humans and the Zenth Confederation, the Spiral Wanderers, and the Crystal Collective, all species previously unknown to the Council." Admiral Kexnoth's scarred face showed rare concern. "Are you telling me that in 3 years the humans have made contact with more new species than the Council has encountered in the past century?" "That appears to be the case, sir. The strategic implications were staggering. While the Council struggled with internal problems, humanity was building new alliances and expanding into regions that had been considered unreachable." On Nexus Prime Station, Speaker Velthar called the most important Council session in decades. Representatives from every major species attended, even those who had been feuding with each other over resource allocation and trade disputes. "Fellow delegates," Velthar began, "we face a crisis that threatens the foundation of our galactic order. The human withdrawal has caused cascading failures across multiple sectors of our civilization. Meanwhile, intelligence reports indicate that humanity is not only surviving, but expanding rapidly into previously unexplored regions. Delegate, why? 5 years after the withdrawal, the impossible happened. A human ship entered Council space. The vessel appeared at the edge of the Nexus Prime system without warning. It was unlike any human ship the Council had seen before. Sleek, angular, and radiating energy signatures that made their sensors struggle to get accurate readings. Nexus Prime Control, this is the diplomatic vessel New Horizon, came the transmission. We request permission to dock. We carry an official envoy from the Human Federation. The control center erupted in controlled chaos. Speaker Velthar was contacted immediately, as were the leaders of every major council species. After 5 years of failed attempts to contact humanity, the humans were finally reaching out. 3 hours later, Ambassador Wu Jin Lim walked through the docking bay of Nexus Prime Station. He moved with quiet confidence, flanked by 2 security officers whose equipment looked far more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Behind him walked Dr. Kyung-ho An, a specialist in interspecies relations, and Commander Yoon-seo Park, whose uniform bore insignia that no council member recognized. Belthar greeted them personally, something she had not done for any visitor in decades. Ambassador Lim, welcome back to Nexus Prime. The council is grateful for your arrival. Wu Jin smiled politely. Speaker Velthar, thank you for receiving us. I bring greetings from President Park and the United Human Federation. I must ask, why now? We have been attempting to contact your people for over 2 years. We know, Wu Jin replied simply. We were not ready to talk until now. The formal reception that followed was unlike any diplomatic event in council history. Representatives from dozens of species attended, many showing a deference toward the human delegation that would have been unthinkable 5 years earlier. Morden of the hegemony, his scarred face showing less arrogance than before, spoke first. Ambassador Lim, the hegemony wishes to discuss the possibility of technical assistance agreements. We are willing to offer substantial compensation. Wu Jin's expression remained neutral. What kind of technical assistance? Our mining operations have encountered efficiency problems. We understand that human engineers previously worked on optimization systems that we can no longer maintain. I see. And what would the hegemony offer in exchange for this assistance? Morden shifted uncomfortably. Trade concessions, favorable shipping rates, access to strategic materials. Interesting, Wu Jin said, but we are no longer interested in those things. The statement sent a ripple of confusion through the gathered delegates. If humans did not want trade concessions or resources, what did they want? Zaralin of the Alterians tried next. Perhaps we could discuss scientific collaboration. Surely human researchers would benefit from access to our advanced laboratories and databases. Dr. Kyung-ho An spoke for the first time. With respect, Delegate Zaralin, human science has advanced considerably in the past 5 years. We are no longer interested in joint research projects. Then what do you want? Demanded Supreme Coordinator Vex Thon of the Keth Syndicate. Your people must want something, or you would not be here. Wu Jin looked around the room, studying the faces of beings who had once dismissed humanity as primitive and unimportant. We want to discuss the future of galactic civilization, but not as junior partners seeking approval, as equals offering cooperation. The word equals hung in the air like a challenge. For centuries, the Council had operated on the assumption that some species were naturally superior to others. The idea that humans considered themselves equal to the ancient Alterians or the powerful hegemony was revolutionary. Speaker Velthar stepped forward. Ambassador Lim, perhaps we could discuss this more privately. The Council leadership would be honored to meet with you in closed session. That would be acceptable, Wu Jin agreed. 2 hours later, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a conference table with 3 humans. The contrast was striking. The council leaders looked tired, their species showing the strain of 5 years of declining civilization. The humans looked confident and well-prepared. Let us speak plainly, Velthar began. The council has experienced difficulties since your departure. We are prepared to discuss terms for renewed cooperation. Wu Jin nodded. We are aware of your difficulties. Our intelligence services have been monitoring the situation. Your intelligence services? Morden's eyes narrowed. You have been spying on us? We have been observing. There is a difference. Commander Yunseo Park activated a holographic display that showed a detailed map of Council space. Red indicators marked failing systems, economic problems, and infrastructure breakdowns. Across dozens of worlds, communication network efficiency down 67%. She read from her data. Industrial production down 53%. Agricultural output down 41%. Power grid stability down 72%. Transportation, safety incidents up 300%. The numbers were devastating and precise. The humans knew exactly how badly Council civilization was failing. How do you have such detailed information? Asked Energy Coordinator Lux Andon. Because we designed most of the systems that are failing, Dr. Kyung Ho An replied. When we left, we took our knowledge with us, but we also left monitoring protocols that allow us to observe how our former projects perform without maintenance. Velthar realized the full scope of what had happened. You planned this. The withdrawal was not emotional or impulsive, it was calculated. Of course it was calculated, Wu Jin confirmed. For 50 years, the Council treated humanity as a junior species, whose contributions were appreciated but not essential. We decided to demonstrate exactly how essential we actually were. By destroying galactic civilization, Morden accused. By withdrawing our support for a system that did not value us, Wu Jin corrected. The Council chose to let us go. The consequences are the result of that choice. Supreme Coordinator Vexthon leaned forward. What do you want? Credits? Territory? Resources? Name your price. We do not want your credits, your territory, or your resources, Wu Jin said. We want respect. You have it, Velthar said quickly. The Council recognizes that we underestimated humanity's contributions to galactic society. Words are easy, Commander Yunseo Park said. Restructuring the entire basis of galactic government is harder. She activated another display showing the current Council power structure. The Council operates on a hierarchy based on military strength, economic power, and technological advancement. Humans were classified as a minor species despite our contributions because we do not fit your traditional categories. What are you proposing? Asked Zara Lin. Dr. Kyung Ho An answered. A complete reorganization of galactic government. No more hierarchy. No more senior and junior species. A true confederation of equals where decisions are made by consensus rather than dominance. The silence that followed was profound. What the humans were suggesting would destroy the power structure that had governed the galaxy for millennia. Impossible, Morden growled. The strong must lead the weak, it is the natural order. The natural order is failing, Wu Jin replied calmly. Your current system is collapsing because it does not utilize the full potential of all its members. He stood and walked to the display. While the Council has struggled with internal problems, humanity has made contact with 47 new species in the outer spiral. We have established trade relationships, scientific exchanges, and mutual defense agreements. We have built a confederation based on cooperation rather than domination. And, Velthar asked, and it works. Our new allies contribute according to their abilities and receive according to their needs. Species that your system would classify as minor have made breakthrough discoveries that benefit everyone. The Zenth Confederation has developed new medical technologies. The Spiral Wanderers have created faster-than-light communication methods. The Crystal Collective has pioneered energy storage techniques that make Velmora power systems look primitive. Commander, Yunseo Park added more data to the display. In 5 years, our Confederation has achieved technological advances that took the Council centuries. Why? Because we listen to everyone's ideas instead of assuming that older or stronger automatically means wiser. The Council leaders studied the information with growing amazement. The humans had not just survived their exile, they had created a new form of galactic civilization that was advancing faster than the old one. What exactly are you offering? Velthar asked carefully. Partnership, Wu Jin said. Not membership in your council, but cooperation between equals. The Human Federation and our allies are willing to share technology and knowledge with council species who are willing to participate in true collaboration. And if we refuse? Then you continue as you are. We will not interfere with your choices, Zara Lin spoke slowly. But without human assistance, our civilization will continue to decline. That is possible, Wu Jin agreed. But it is your choice to make. The negotiations that followed lasted for weeks. Some species, led by the proud hegemony, initially refused to consider the human proposals. Others, desperate for solutions to why their failing systems, were more willing to consider new approaches. Eventually, pragmatism won. The economic and technical problems were too severe to ignore, and the evidence of human success was too compelling to dismiss.